Welcome to this session on entrepreneurship development. In this session, we'll be talking about one of the most important assets of an entrepreneur, which is manpower. Okay, so this session will focus on human resource management and certain related topics to that. Okay, when we talk about human behavior, we need to understand what constitutes human behavior. What are the different variables that an entrepreneur needs to look into trying to understand human behavior? And the other question is, why would the entrepreneur look into human behavior aspects? It's because he wants to match the human behavior aspects with the requirements of the job. Okay, he has got a set of jobs which is going to be filled by manpower. Okay, and the right manpower needs to be fitted into the right position so that the best results are obtained. So, if that is so, what are certain important variables that underlie human behavior? Let us say we can broadly classify it into two different categories. Okay, the first category would be the biographical characteristics. By biographical characteristics, we mean certain characteristics of individuals, like age or gender, which by themselves have an important bearing on the jobs that they perform and the efficiency with which they are able to carry out those jobs. And of course, the other criterion would be the ability criteria. Okay, like it's not only enough to understand whether an old person or a young person would be allowed to fill that position, or what is the gender, a man or a woman would fill that position, but it's also important to know what are the abilities that an individual will bring to that job, and do those abilities match the ability requirements of the job criteria. Okay, so let's say intelligence would be one of the ability criteria that one would look into, and that will have to be defined in a lot more detail as to what would go into constituting intelligence. Now, having said this, we are trying to explore, let's say from the point of view of the entrepreneur, as to what is the impact that, let's say, age and gender are going to have on things like employee productivity, absenteeism, turnover or loyalty, job satisfaction, which are important yardsticks of any job performance, right?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
If biographical and ability are the two criteria,
Yeah.
sir, then aren't they mutually correlated then?
Yeah, there are correlations. We will go into that. Okay, there are correlations between those, and we will look into those characteristics individually as well. Okay, there will always be an interplay between the age, the gender,
Yes,
and the ability, of course, and you are getting them all in one package, that is individual. So obviously there will be an interplay, but then we would like to dissect it, characteristic by characteristic, so that we can understand what is the impact of each of these on, let's say, a given job's performance. Okay, so let's move into understanding what is the impact of each of these. Let's first take up age as a variable. People have always debated what is the right age for an employee coming into the organization, or for a given role, which might be at the entry level or at the middle management level, or even at higher levels. What is the impact of age on performance?
So age
What is
a
your
big
belief on this?
factor, or more than that, at such levels, experience is a bigger factor.
Okay, so age is not just age, but then age also brings an experience along with it. Okay, so while an employee who is older in terms of age might lose out to a younger colleague
Experience.
in terms of age, but then he makes it up in terms of experience that he brings to the job table. Okay,
And also the technical skills are here important.
technical skills aside, we are now looking at, firstly,
Just-
we are not
just
looking at
the-
ability, mind you,
okay.
Ruchita. We are saying that we are looking at age per se, and how is that going to impact the performance of the employee. Okay, now the general belief all around, if you look at, you'll see that people tend to believe that job performance declines with age. That's a general perception that most people have, which is why you'll find most employers are reluctant to hire, aged employees. But mind you, research has it that age does not necessarily, act as a deterrent in when it comes to performance. It's not always so.
I think it depends upon that individual himself.
It depends
What
on the
is his
individual.
motivation to work and enthusiasm,
And also
such
the
Yes.
kind
factors,
of
whether
job.
he wants to work or not.
Sir, and also
Okay.
the kind of job. Like
Of course.
if he's a professor, then he can continue till very late.
Okay.
But if he's doing some kind of manual work, then definitely we need younger people for it.
Okay. Now, if you look at what are the plus points that go in favor of age, what are possibly the plus factors that go with age? what would you think in terms of hiring an aged employee? What would you
So
expect
what
out of
would
him?
be enthusiasm?
Enthusiasm, okay.
The sense of belongingness, because the more for more number of years I'll work in a company, the more like loyal I will be
Okay.
towards the company.
Fine. So maybe what, in other words, you're trying to say that it leads to higher commitment. Slightly advanced aged employee would be having more commitment towards the role that he has been assigned, rather than someone who is very fresh and new to the job. Okay. So age brings in commitment. Okay, that's one.
So that
Age brings in
this-
experience. We have already debated about that. Yes, when you bring in employees at a certain level of age, they always bring in a lot of experience behind them, and that experience can be taken advantage of by the organization, provided that's relevant and related to the role that he has been assigned. Okay. The other thing is judgment. With age comes ability to
Automatic
judge.
judge.
The judgment capabilities of an employee would increase. Okay, youngsters, while they will have more enthusiasm maybe for the job, but then they may not have the right kind of judgment. They will not be able to put things in perspective. Whereas a slightly aged employee with a few years of experience behind him will be able to judge, and therefore he will be bringing in that plus to the job table, which a young employee may not be able to do.
Sir, another point, maybe younger people are more risk-taking. They have more
Okay.
risk-taking capabilities.
Now that goes against age. Okay. Now the more you are aged, then the less venturesome you are.
Yeah.
Okay. You become more risk averse with age, and young people do not mind taking a risk because they have fewer liabilities to take care of. Okay. So well, that's a negative that goes against age. But then, is there any other plus that comes along with age?
So with the people who work for a longer period of time in a particular company, so less training, and since they know the company well, they know the job nature
Quite
well.
possibly they would
So
need lesser
training
amount
or
of
less
training.
Supervision is required for these.
Quite right,
peoples.
absolutely. Because they have got some kind of a work ethic already. They have already gone through some experience of work, so they do not need basic training. They don't need to be supervised as much as a young employee would require, and they would churn out more quality expectedly because of the work culture that they have
In
been
fact,
through.
they will be good trainers themselves.
Yes.
They could even turn out to be good trainers themselves, but then do remember that it is very difficult to change an employee also with age. Okay. As much
becomes
as you
very
can
much,
change, like a fresher can be imparted with new skills and techniques, and he will learn faster and adopt those. Okay, but then for a slightly aged employee, it'll be more difficult
more
for him to learn.
inflexible.
That's right. So that's another negative for age. It makes people less flexible, and therefore that's a negative from the point of view of the entrepreneur. An aged employee lacks flexibility. A young employee is more flexible. He can be trained and groomed according to the needs of
Even
the.
they are sometimes they are not ready to accept new techniques and
New
in
technologies.
dealings, like
Correct.
while dealing with people, there are certain different techniques which have come along and
Correct.
different styles.
For example, just sample this. Now we are now living in a world which is technology driven. Okay. Now older or aged employees are more resistant to using newer technology. That has been found all across the world. Okay. Whereas new employees are more adept to using technology and adapting technology for their day-to-day work. So when it comes to adopting technology and using technology, you will find that age is some kind of a deterrent. People like me who are aged will not be able to use all kinds of technology with which you will be very friendly and in a very short duration of time. Now that again goes against age. So there are pluses and minuses when you talk about age. But then many people argue that what aged people lack in terms of their adaptation to technology or their inflexibility, they do make up once in a while with the kind of experience and the work commitment and the work ethic and the judgment that they bring to the job scenario.
So another plus point for age, like they can be a good decision maker.
Yes,
their
because of their judgmental skills,
yeah.
they would perhaps be better decision makers. Mind you,
But
when we're
then not
talking about
always, if we talk about even this risk factor,
yes.
sometimes this risk-taking attitude makes you a better
Correct.
decision maker.
There are times when you have to take decisions
risks.
amid risk, okay, and there an aged employee who is more
Lacks.
risk averse may not be able to go ahead and take the decision and face the consequences, whereas a young employee could perhaps be more forward looking and take that amount of risk.
But the chances
true.
of error are more in that risk-taking decision.
That is right. He may not consider the different points of view, whereas an aged employee would look at things from a much larger perspective and arrive at a decision. Okay, fine. So that's one thing. And we also talk about what is the impact of age on turnover. But then before we go into that discussion, we take a short break here. We come back and discuss the impact of age on turnover or loyalty or on absenteeism or on productivity. But all of this after the break. Thank you. Welcome back. Before going into the break, we had said that we have looked into different variables which have an impact on job performance. In terms of age, we have explored the impact of age on, let's say, things like productivity, turnover, absenteeism, job satisfaction, and so on. Now, let's look into other issues here. For example, what is the impact of age on turnover? What do you think?
So they have an inverse relation, like more the age, less will be the turnover.
Okay.
Like they will be more loyal to the company.
Okay.
They're more satisfied.
So
and
you would imagine
satisfied.
that the more experienced the employee is in the organization, the longer the tenure of that employee in that organization, then chances will improve that he will continue in that organization even longer.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
why do we imagine? Because see, when a person grows in age, like from in terms of his experience and in terms of his work years also, the opportunity for him dries up.
Right.
Like-
Opportunities outside that organization
Yes.
will not be as many, so there will be fewer opportunities. So even otherwise, he will be forced to continue on that job.
And so
Okay.
also he'll
Okay.
be more habitual in that particular environment and going out in a new environment and then again settling in.
That's
starting
right.
From it will be like starting from the scratch.
Right. So
It will
he
be
does not
difficult
want
for
that
him,
change.
huh?
He's not very pro change, and that also adds to his staying power in the organization. Okay.
And on the other hand, young blood will always search for better opportunities, better
Okay.
wages and
Okay.
all.
They are yet to build up their loyalty
Yeah,
towards the
they're-
organization,
and
and
they
they
will
still
be also flexible to relocate themselves in any part of the
Okay,
place, like
okay.
in any city, any part
Okay.
of the place, and in any environment.
Okay.
Which an aged employee may not be that much flexible to accept that relocation.
That's right. Because of his different other commitments, family commitments, social commitments, he will not be able to. He's not as free to move out of an organization and relocate somewhere in a different organization. He's not free to do all that. So I think
he'll be, sir, he'll be
Yeah.
more secured regarding his different benefits he's getting from that organization.
that's another point of view. Obviously, because he has grown in that organization, he
He thinks that
stands to
organization will
enjoy a lot more
automatically
benefits.
take
That's
care
right.
of him.
Organization takes care of him. He gets more holidays. He gets more fringe benefits and all those. And that's another reason why he stays on and builds a career for himself in an organization.
So again, with age,
Yeah.
social commitment comes.
Social commitment,
So
yeah.
again, if he will try to change the job now, again he won't be able to concentrate on that aspect of his life.
Okay,
which
right.
is again very important to him.
Right. So I think we can generally conclude from this small discussion that with age, the chances of turnover go down. There is an inverse relationship apparently between employee age and employee turnover in an organization. Okay. How about absenteeism? If you look at absenteeism, that's one of the parameters for the employer. And how would you relate age with absenteeism? What kind of relationship is shared between these two variables?
Sir, to start with, I suppose that as far as avoidable absenteeism are concerned, it decreases with age.
Now, what do you mean by avoidable absenteeism?
That means a person can avoid, like he's going out for a party
Okay.
and he's not coming to the office, is an avoidable absenteeism.
Right. It's not inevitable.
Inevitable, yeah.
He's not in a position.
He's doing it because he wants to.
He
do it.
voluntarily, skips going to the office, and that's, avoidable absenteeism. And well, the other option would be unavoidable, where
He
due
falls
to
sick
unavoidable
and-
circumstances.
Which increases with
That's
age,
right.
sir.
Okay.
Like if he falls sick, like it is very obvious that
Okay.
if a person grows with age, the possibility will be there that he will fall sick
And he'll take
frequently.
time more.
And
Right.
it will take time for him to recover also. So
Okay.
this is this is
This is
inevitable.
and unavoidable, right?
Unavoidable.
So first of all, if we look at absenteeism, it can be avoidable, it can be unavoidable. Now, if it's unavoidable absenteeism, apparently what she is saying is correct, that with more aged employees, you'll have more of unavoidable absenteeism. For example, older people are more likely to fall sick once in a while, and if they do, then they would take a longer time to recover from that illness compared to a younger counterpart. Okay, so that way unavoidable absenteeism might rise if the average age in the organization is on the rise. Okay. On the other hand, the avoidable absenteeism is more attached with younger employees, which is optional absenteeism. Younger people normally would take a day off for not so unavoidable reasons, whereas an older employee would not skip office on such flimsy grounds. Okay, so without generalizing absenteeism, research has found that it has got a mixed relationship. As far as avoidable absenteeism is concerned, age shares an inverse relationship with it, and as far as the unavoidable absenteeism is concerned, age has got a direct relationship. Okay, so much for absenteeism. Then let's look at okay, what is the impact of age on productivity?
So in general, it definitely decreases. The productivity decreases with age.
Okay.
So
But
in case
then
of manual labor, labor, like if you're doing something manually, it will obviously decrease if your age rises.
Because you feel that with age your physical abilities
abilities
start
decreases.
declining,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
therefore you are not able to deliver as much as you
So
would have done.
actually there are
But then
two
do
kinds of-
remember that skills can be sharpened over
Sharpened
age,
over
age,
right.
you know, and that can actually offset for the lack of the skill level that you have. I mean, lack of the with age you lose something of your productivity. That's right. On the other hand, you make it up in terms of the skill that you've accumulated over the years. Okay. Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
Ruchita,
if
I
you-
stopped you. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So
Yeah.
actually there are two kinds of labor, skilled labor
Okay.
and unskilled labor.
Okay.
So in case of productivity for skilled labor,
Okay.
it will definitely increase with age. And
Okay.
for unskilled labor, it
It
will definitely decrease.
Okay, that's another point of view. Yes, the general belief is that general belief I'm saying is the productivity declines with age. That's the usual perception among the common people. Okay, but then again, research has found out that there is nothing to connect the two. In fact, there is no evidence to support this proposition that with age productivity goes down. As a matter of fact, extensive research has been carried out on this, and it has been shown that productivity and age are really unconnected and unrelated.
Actually, I think it depends upon the individual's enthusiasm towards work.
So there are factors other than merely measuring the productivity and the age.
And the age.
There are other
many
intervening
causal
variables.
factors which govern the whole.
Absolutely. So it's not just the connection between these two variables. There are other variables which are coming into play along with this, which we'll come to in a later discussion on a later episode. Okay, for the time being, let's focus on age and how age has got an impact on any of these parameters. Okay. Right. So, and what would you say would be the impact of age on job satisfaction? Job satisfaction?
So like job satisfaction, it may rise according to the age. Like
Okay.
if employee is more experienced, they may like their job as well.
That's right.
And compared to the young
Okay.
blood.
Okay.
So, but
Like-
then there is one more factor that if there is no growth in that job, and he's
Stagnant.
continuing in the organization, but he finds no growth. There is no
Okay.
career opportunity. Then automatically job satisfaction comes down because that position becomes stagnant. There is it becomes exhausted.
Let's say we are trying to imagine a situation, it's a simulation rather, that we are considering all other factors are healthy and congenial for the growth of an employee. Now, given that situation, would you expect age to have an impact on job satisfaction? As Shatanik was saying that with age you will get to appreciate the job better maybe, and that's going to give you more satisfaction from the job, and that's what's going to lead to a longer stay with the job. Is that possible?
Yes, sir.
And maybe let's say in the beginning when an employee just joins an organization, that's the
It
time he's
takes
assessing
time.
the job, and that's the most
What-
vulnerable period from
Yeah.
the organization's point of view, because he might take a premature decision to switch over to a different organization without having tasted the job in its
Essence of
full
the job.
in all the parameters. Okay, and before job satisfaction actually happens to him, he moves on to a different organization or a different role. That can
So
even
we
happen.
can say
Okay.
that too much of satisfaction may also work in a negative manner. Why? Because if a person is get to work like the same thing every day, if
Okay.
he is working the work methods
Okay.
and everything, then of course a monotony. There will be a
There will be
feeling of
monotony, yeah, of course.
and which will obviously a sense of boredom will
Okay.
occur within the employee, and from that his enthusiasm towards the work, his interest towards the work may decrease.
So it is
because of
incumbent from the
monotony.
point of view of the entrepreneur to develop the job profile of the employee in such a manner that he gets to find some variety in the job, he gets to learn on the job, and he gets to graduate and improve on that job
Just
and
to
get to a
instill his
different role.
interest,
Yeah,
within the employees.
that's right. Okay,
So it
fine.
ultimately depends on the entrepreneur how he designs his job. And
Absolutely, it is.
and
That is the point we are trying to arrive at. The entrepreneur has to think through all these, and therefore he has to do a job design in a manner where the job is likely to give satisfaction to not only an older employee, but also it will attract and retain a young talent on the job. Okay, so that's the other angle to it. Fine. I think we have explored the variable of job with respect to the job parameters in fairly good detail. Let's move on to something else, gender. Okay, gender is perhaps the most debated and most misunderstood concept when it comes to a job situation. Now, as it were, there is nothing to make one believe that there is any difference between a man and a woman in terms of performing a job in an organizational setup. There is little evidence to suggest that there are certain things that women cannot do and men can do, or vice versa. Okay, so given that, let's explore the impact of now gender on. First of all, let's look at absenteeism. What is the role of gender when it comes to absenteeism in the organization? What do you think?
like so for the feminine gender, the absenteeism will be the more, because they have some social responsibilities, some family commitment, and
Yeah.
all. For that, they may take some more.
I think this is one area where research has also agreed with the common perception that with women, absenteeism normally increases in the organization. And we have got two ladies out here, which is why we all want to really make this point clear that women have been found to stay away from jobs for longer durations of time, at least in the Indian context. Okay. In the Indian context, the woman has got a very well-defined role in family, and as far as, let's say, when there is a child in the family, the child is not well, or there are other exigencies within the family, it's the woman who normally stays back, attending to those duties rather than the man. Okay, so historically it has been seen that women normally exhibit higher levels of absenteeism in organizational life than do their counterparts, the men. Okay. But
sir,
things are
nowadays,
changing.
yes,
Yeah,
sir,
that's the
nowadays
point.
Things are changing. Like
That's right.
women have become more serious. Like
That's right.
Because we, the women, knew before joining a job, we knew that like there will be shifts, there can be duties at any time
Right,
of the day,
right.
at any time of the week. So we have to set up our mind accordingly.
Okay, these are evolving trends in the Indian society and the world over also.
But
That
sir,
more and
again-
more women are joining the workforce and they are bringing a higher level of commitment to the job. And because they are coming with that understanding that they are no longer considering a part-time employment as the career, they are looking at career
Full-time.
as full-time option, and therefore the rate of absenteeism among women has been going down over the years as more and more women are increasingly joining the workforce. And on the other side, what is happening is more and more men are getting involved in household work, and they are taking up
Equally
many of
sharing
the
the
equally
responsibility.
sharing the responsibilities at home, which is making many men do part-time work rather than women, and therefore we might see a complete reversal of the trend of absenteeism between men and women as far as the workplace is concerned over the forthcoming years. So, but then the point we were trying to make, and the point with which we'll close this discussion, is that in terms of important parameters like problem solving ability, analytical skills, competitive drive or motivation, sociability, and things like those, there is nothing to discriminate women
and
from
women,
men. Okay, they are really equal. Research has established conclusively that men and women are on equal footing as far as these parameters are concerned, and these are very important characteristics as far as a job scenario is concerned. So, except for the fact of absenteeism, where women tend to show a negative kind of a trend, we are quite happy with having more women in the workforce because they bring in a higher level of commitment and they're more professional to the job. And in terms of turnover, what do you think? Turnover wise, what do you think gender does to this? Gender versus turnover.
So turnover will again be the same as absenteeism.
Somewhat different. Women leaving the positions, the
organization.
jobs. Yeah.
But that will be less, because women
Okay.
are more loyal to the family
Okay.
rather than. But
exactly,
if they're
young females joining and then getting married and
Yeah.
then leaving is, I think, still the rate is high
Okay.
because of the family commitment, and especially
Right.
when they have kids, newborn
Right.
babies, then
Right.
it's quite obvious for them to leave, at least take a break for a year or so, take a gap
Fine.
for 2 years, and then they might again join back.
Okay, now this trend has not set in India so far in a big way, but then in the developed economies like the US and the European Union, you will find that there is little significant difference between men and women in terms of their turnover rates. I mean, they are almost on the same platform. There's nothing to conclude that women leave jobs more frequently than men, or the other way around. Okay, but then in India, I would imagine that home comes first to a woman and career comes next. Even now, and given this situation, women tend to leave the jobs and go back to their family roles more often than their counterparts do in the West. Therefore, this trend is something of a concern even today in the Indian context. But then I think with the shift in perception about the role of the women in the society, not only is she a person,
Things will change.
yeah, it is going to change, and it is already changing. So to sum up, we would say that what we have covered in this session is that we have tried to look at what are the different considerations from the point of view of the entrepreneur when it comes to recruiting and hiring employees for his organization. Now, there are certain set of factors which are biographic factors, like we talked about age and gender, and we tried to explore in the course of this session itself what is the impact of these two biographic factors on the output. That is, what is the impact of age, or for that matter gender, on things like productivity, absenteeism, turnover, okay, and job satisfaction as well. So this is what we have explored in this session. In the coming session, what we will look into is, we'll look into what is the impact of ability, how is ability defined, and how are those parameters that define ability going to have an impact on the performance on all these parameters as we have discussed. Okay, so we close this session, and we look forward to a discussion on ability in the forthcoming session. Thank you.
Thank you.